Would you like to hear your company or church announcements or church broadcast on the airwaves of WEHA? You can call our business office at 609-641-8870 for further details.
Hey, y'all.
What up, what up?
How you doing?
Good.
All right, all right. So, I guess we can go over that song, the churchy one. Let's get it. I'm pressing on. I do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to get my reward. I'm determined. I'm striving. I ain't striving. I think this song is missing something. I feel the song needs a choir.
Yeah, a choir would be nice. But we can't get no choir this short notice.
I mean, we're in Atlanta.
I'm from Dallas.
Don't come for my praise.
But I just think it's short notice to try to get a choir.
Let me show you.
What is she talking about?
Oh, God. I'm gonna help you. That's what I'm about to do. Social media. Watch this. Miranda Curtis needs a choir. Post. Now watch this. It's gonna be massive.
Okay, come on, God.
We're gonna jam for the lamb. Told you. Y'all come on in. Come on in. I'm so glad you're here. This is about to be bananas. I'm pressing on. I'll do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to get my reward.
Gospel 88.7 WEHA. It's more than music. It's ministry.
WEHA, Port Republic, Atlantic City. And now on FM translator 100.3 W262CF, Atlantic
Hi,
City.
this is George C.
Hi, this is Super Steph.
This is Lisa Diane Hall.
Hey, it's me, Professor J.
This is Rose.
Hey, this is Bishop John Gandy.
Hi, this is Tawana Davis.
Hi, this is Thelma Witherspoon.
Hi, this is Tamaya J.
Hey, this is Sister Girl.
Hi, this is Tehran.
Hi, this is Evangelist Laniel.
Hey, this is Chris.
Hi, this is Delrita Hawks.
Hi, I'm Christine Hawks Washington.
Hey, this is Lady Praise.
Hi, I'm El Presidente. Wishing you a very Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year from all of us here at Gospel 88.7 FM WEHA.
WEHA is a listener-supported radio station. To make a donation, call 609-641-8870. Visit our headquarters at 3 Canal Drive, Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, 08234. Or log on to our website, wehavegospel.com.
We have gospel.
If you just tune in, you're listening to In the Community with Dr. Thelma Witherspoon right here on your favorite gospel radio station, WEHA Gospel, 88.7, 100.3 FM. We have gospel. We are live in the studio today, and we have a wonderful program for you. Make sure that you are tuned in to WEHA. This broadcast has been brought to you by the Hawks Family Businesses, who has been serving our community for over 30 years, and Beacon Hall, turning moments into memories, and God's gift. The CEO is Grace Crump Holly. Thank you so much for sponsoring my show in the community. There is a lot of stuff that's going on in the community, and we're going to talk about it on today. But first, I want to say Merry Christmas to everyone out there in Radio Land, and I hope this is a blessed holiday for you on this Christmas. I don't say Happy Holidays. I say Merry Christmas. All right. So that's what I say. I say Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everybody, and to everyone who's celebrating Hanukkah, or to whatever you're going to be celebrating on this particular week. We want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and so on and so forth. All right. I guess there's a few things that are going on in the community and nationwide that I want to make sure that everyone is aware of. First of all, WEHA is in round 2 for the Stellar Award, and we need you to go and to our website, www.wehavegospel, and just they made it so /vote, and all you got to do, they made it so easy for you, is click vote, and you can vote for WEHA. All right. We want to bring home a third Stellar for you. We done it for 2 years, and we wanted to do it again in the small market category, and certainly we need your help in order to get that done. Also, I'm very excited that Fred Jerkins III, he made the Billboard's #1 for the new gospel artist, and he's on the Stellar Awards also. So we want you to go to 5 and 10 and vote for Fred Jerkins III, and make sure that he brings the Stellar Award home. I'm telling you, a lot is going on in our community. We have a lot. Well, of course, he moved, but he's originally from our community, and we know him and as Uncle Freddie, and we want to make sure that we are voting for him as well. Also, on Christmas Day, if you know anyone who would like a hot meal or breakfast, you can go to the New Hope Baptist Church, 715 Baltic Avenue in Atlantic City, and they're serving a nice Christmas breakfast from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Christmas Day. And they've been doing this, and what I love about Reverend Dr. Howard, he never makes no noise. He really doesn't want anybody to know what he's doing. He's just out there working. And New Hope's been doing this for a long time, and they have good cooks at New Hope. So if you know anyone who needs some socialization, they're alone, they're not with anyone, and you know, it gets lonely, you know, sometimes when you're by yourself during this particular holiday. Your relatives may live far and you can't get to them. Go over to New Hope, and they have a buffet, and they don't just serve anything. And I know for a fact, I went there on Thanksgiving before I went to the Atlantic City High School Viking game against Holy Spirit. I'm not going to talk about the score, you already know. But before I went there, and I just stopped by New Hope to say hello, and I sit down. Whew, it was delicious. So again, if you want know someone who needs a hot meal, because most of the places are closed on Christmas Day, they can stop by New Hope Baptist Church, 715 Baltic Avenue in Atlantic City, New Jersey, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Also, I want to say happy birthday to Bishop Dolores Dixon. She's another year older. She's a recording artist right here in our area, and happy birthday. And I had a little something that I saw on Facebook that I wanted to read. Want to keep Christ in Christmas? Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, forgive the guilty. And talking about that, I only got like a few seconds to talk about it. How long are we going to be mad at Michael Vick? I know it was horrible, but you know, you got to be forgiven. You know, God forgives people. So forgive the guilty. He served his time. Let's move on. Welcome the unwanted. Care for the ill. Love your enemies and do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. And that is keeping Christ in Christmas. Now, some people say, listen, Thelma, I don't celebrate Christmas because, one, I'm not religious. Two, Christ wasn't really born on December the 25th. We know that. He was born around April. But this is the time that the world celebrates a risen Savior. This is a gospel radio station. So that's the reason why we celebrate Christmas. Some people say, I don't celebrate it because it's too commercial. As you know, the gifts, it's too much money. You don't have to buy a lot of gifts. The reason for the season is the reason that Christ was born, and we recognize that. All right? So you don't have to give financially to give. You can give your time. You can go to the nursing home. You can visit a loved one who's sick or anything of that nature. All right? So, but this... remember the reason for the season and not get stressed out during this Christmas season. Again, we want you to go to the website and vote for the Stellar Award for WEHA for round 2. And now they changed it. You used to could vote more than one time, but now they cleaned it up and you only can vote once. I tried to vote a couple more times. It wasn't letting me go through because I've already voted. Okay, but tell your friends to go out and vote for WEHA 88.7. All right, 100.3 FM. We have gospel, and keep the radio station in mind. We love the prayers. Prayers work, but we are going to also use your financial contributions to the radio station. We ask you to donate to WEHA. We have an 8 for 88 campaign, $8 a month. That's not a lot. You know, and you can donate. Go to the website, www.wehavegospel.com, and and donate. Click the donate button and donate. If you want to donate to my show, which I have some new sponsors in January, you can go to the website, click donation, and then in the comment box, put in the community, and then let me know that you did it. All right. So thank you so very, very much for supporting me and WEHA. All right, we're moving forward. We're getting ready for our interview, and I'm very excited to have our guest in the studio today, in the person of Michael Suleiman. All right, and he is the Atlantic County Chair for the Democrats. I thought it was just the right time.
That's an understatement.
To bring him on here today. So just in case you don't know who Mike Suleiman is, I want him to say something about himself.
Well, thank you for having me, Thelma. We've been friends for a long time. So I've been the county Democratic chairman since June of 2016. It's sometimes I feel like it's a prison sentence because it's a lot of stress and no money. But it's been a great experience helping to build the party here in Atlantic County. Was unanimously elected in 2016, re-elected with 90% of the vote in 2018. So I got a pretty good track record of winning elections. So looking forward to serving Democrats here and throughout the county. It's not just about getting Democrats elected. That's step one. Step two is actually enacting good public policy. So my hope is the folks that we elect actually do the right thing and do good public policy. And in one instance that we're going to talk about today, there was one Democrat who didn't do the right thing and didn't do good public policy. So.
Wait, and talking about do the right thing now, you know, Spike Lee wrote a movie say do the right thing.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, so doing the right thing, let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about local politics and what's going on. What does it mean? You know, with the impeachment, we're going to cover a lot of information during this interview.
Let's do it.
On today. Well, we're going to start with Congressman Van Drew.
The elephant in the room. Figuratively and literally.
Who decided to switch. Now, has he actually switched? Because I'm getting conflicting stories. I know he's going to. He talked about it. But what is the process on switching, and does that affect his seat as a Democrat?
Well, look, he had a big ballyhoo in the Oval Office with Trump on Thursday.
I saw it.
Announcing it, said he's a Republican. He's already a member of their caucus. He went the whole dog and pony show about why he was switching and, felt the need to bash me in the Oval Office, which I guess I'll wear as a badge of honor. I didn't realize I'd have the President of the United States call me a wise guy in the Oval Office, but hey, what the heck,
Listen, good publicity, bad publicity is still good publicity.
Apparently, it's funny because I got a text from a reporter. She says, "Are you the party leader that Jeff talked about in the Oval Office?" I said, "What are you talking about?" So she texted me the transcript, and I was shocked. And then I had to watch the video, and it's like, there he is bashing me, which obviously was a little embellished, that meeting that him and I had. But no, look, he's a full-fledged member of the Republican Party now. Look, he's a coward with a capital C, and good riddance, and let the Republicans have him. We're going to kick his butt next year.
All right. Now, so with that being said, if he was in the Senate, because a lot of people don't understand this, if he was Senator Cory Booker or Senator Bob Melendez, and they decided that they wanted to flip, they would have had to resign, and then the governor would have made an appointment. But in Congress, when you flip, you can keep your seat until your term is out?
Well, I think you can, for both you can. If you remember in Pennsylvania, Arlen Specter was a Republican United States Senator. He became a Democrat. He ended up not winning the primary, but he was able to just switch his voter registration and switch parties. Should Congressman Van Drew, for whatever reason, decide to step down, there would be a special election for his seat. I actually checked this out. If a senator steps down, the United States Senator, the governor can pick a replacement, and then there's a special election. For the House, it's just you have a special election, the seat's vacant for the time being.
I don't see him stepping down.
I don't either. I mean, look, the right thing that should have been done is either, if you vote no on impeachment, if that's your prerogative, then either you don't run again or you face the music from our members. But then to tuck your tail between your legs and to switch parties because of impeachment, it's pretty cowardly. It's dastardly. He's a traitor.
I know. I've seen it on Facebook and all what the governor wrote and what Mr. Curry wrote and what you wrote on Facebook and the letters that went out as a traitor. So with that being said, he will remain in his seat. When is his term up?
Next November.
Right, November. So December 2020 will be his last.
Yeah. And January 21, someone new would be sworn in, and we're going to make sure that happens.
Yeah, someone new would be sworn into office. So right now, all you have to do is just, I guess, get a letter and just say you switched? I mean, how does that work?
Well, I presumably he went down to Mays Landing or where, his county clerk or his superintendent of elections in May County and did new voter registration saying he's a Republican. But,
But they say he always was a Republican. So, I mean, everybody is saying it was with the blue dog or something.
Well, it's funny because when he wanted to sit down with me, his basic thing was he was basically begging me like, "Hey, look, I'm voting against impeachment, Mike, but I still want your support." I basically said, "Heck no," and his point to me was, "Well, I have a 92% voting record with Nancy Pelosi. Why are you raking me over the coals with one vote?" So it's funny. At that time, he was bragging about his voting record with Nancy Pelosi. Now all of a sudden, he's a Republican. But I told Jeff, I said, "Jeff, the issue isn't. This is not just one vote. This is the most important vote you're going to cast as a member of Congress. Period. End of story. And you got to hold this president accountable. This is the most corrupt and shady president we've ever had. One of the most, at least in American history. What he did with this whole Ukraine situation totally violates our national security. It violates what we stand for as Americans. And the guy has to be impeached, whether he's convicted by the Senate or not. The guy has to be impeached so we can hold this president accountable. And we don't want to have future presidents do what he's doing. Because to me, if I'm a president, Republican or Democrat, this gives me free reign to do whatever I want. There's no consequences.
Right now, I'm glad you said that because a lot of people don't understand the impeachment process. The impeachment inquiry, it was an impeachment inquiry first. Then he was actually impeached. He's the third president to be impeached.
Sure.
All right. If the Senate, which we know, the Senate, the Congress, the Senate is not going to impeach the president. They're not going to do it. I don't see it being done.
You would have to have, in order for the Senate to convict him and remove him from office, you would need 20 Republican senators to vote with all the Democrats. Maybe you get a couple Republicans, but that's it.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
So which means that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So some people would say, but then what was the point?
Well, this is about holding the president accountable, because when you are it's one thing if you're exchanging foreign aid for, let's say, expanding democracy, free and fair elections, end of humanitarian abuses. That's a worthwhile exchange. If you're, North Korea, if you're exchanging foreign aid for more freer press in North Korea, that's a laudable reason. When you're exchanging foreign aid to investigate a political rival, I mean, that's what South American countries do in shady, Noriega type governments. That's not the way we do things in the United States. It's strictly corrupt, and the Constitution says you can get impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors and treason. And clearly this is a high crime and misdemeanor. When the intelligence community is universal in that he abused foreign aid and he really took advantage of American foreign policy for political gain. That's wrong.
So basically, the impeachment was just to hold him accountable, knowing that it was a possibility that he would really never be impeached because the Senate was not going to vote against him, according to what I've been reading.
Look, I was with Pelosi in the sense that I was very hesitant to get behind impeachment for this Ukraine stuff. I was with her. It was like, this isn't the right thing to do at the time. But once that Ukraine situation happened in the summer, to me, it was a game changer. The speaker had no choice but to start an impeachment inquiry. And all the impeachment inquiry is to set rules of the investigation process. Frankly, it afforded the president legal rights in terms of what he could do, could he get documents, et cetera, et cetera. And this all started when Congressman Van Drew, in his infinite wisdom, decided to vote against the impeachment inquiry. And regardless of whether you're for or against the impeachment, all the inquiry was simply setting the rules of the investigation.
Right, and he didn't vote for the rules.
Yeah, because he's a dummy.
Right. Well, we won't call names.
I know.
We won't call names on my show. We still got to respect
I know.
office.
Well, I will say this: he made a
unwise choice.
He made a politically expedient choice, which ended up not helping him because he told me the reason why I'm voting no is to help my legislative candidates in District 1, and as you saw, they lost anyway. So clearly, it didn't help. Frankly, I think it hurt. I know it hurt turnout in Cumberland County. Frankly, it was a huge distraction for us. I mean, 6 days before the election, people were telling me, what are we doing about Jeff? And my point is, guys, we got an election on Tuesday with Susan and Nick and Steve, and Vince and John. Let's get through that first, and then we'll yell at Jeff. So we got through that. Then, around the time of the League of Municipalities, I called Jeff. I said, Jeff, a lot of my members are upset. I'm really imploring you to vote for impeachment.
The inquiry.
No. The actual impeachment.
The actual impeachment.
Yeah, because this is after the inquiry vote. Things are rolling ahead. He basically said no, blah, blah, blah. So then I decided to send my letter, make it public, and say, hey, look, you don't do the right thing, Jeff. You're going to have some big problems in the party. Bridget Harrison had already kicked the tires out, maybe running against some other candidates or thinking about kicking the tires. I said, Jeff, you're going to have a big problem here. And again, then it all went downhill, and we had this infamous breakfast meeting where I guess I threatened him, according to Jeff in the White House. But again, it was a lot of folks in the party. Not just the progressive wing. I make it very clear. Moderate Democrats, people you and I know personally, Thelma, and respect, were saying, what is Jeff doing? And I told Jeff, I said, you've got a really big problem here, and you did the wrong thing, and,
So because he couldn't face the music or the consequences, he just jumped out before...
Well, if you're gonna look, this is,
he didn't want to be held accountable for his vote.
Of course not.
That's basically what it was.
It was so important for him to hold on to that $3 pin, that lapel pin that says you're a congressman, that he was willing to do whatever, and in this case, switch parties to keep that $3 lapel pin.
But the Republicans are mad at him too.
Well, look, if I'm a lifelong Republican, and this guy who's got a 92% voting record with Nancy Pelosi, who's pro-choice, who actually endorsed Cory Booker for president, who didn't support Chris Christie for governor. If I'm a Republican, I see this carpetbagger come to my party, I'm probably a little annoyed too. Yeah.
All right, well, let's stay away from the names.
I know, I'm sorry.
You done it again. Yeah. You're right, so...
Well, he's a carpetbagger.
I understand. I understand, but on my show...
Thelma's my political godmother, everybody, so it's... she keeps saying, no, listen, I need that, keep me grounded.
Yeah, so the inquiry was one thing, was to set the rules, and then it was the actual impeachment, which just happened.
Well, but he was on Fox News talking about that he's against impeachment for the articles of of impeachment were even drafted. And to me, how do you vote? How do you already come out against something where you don't even know what it's going to look like? It's crazy. It's like a juror making a decision on a case without even hearing the testimony. It's just crazy. Look, it was all about politics with Jeff. You know, Jeff only cares about Jeff. He wanted to make a politically expedient decision to keep the $2 pin, which. Look, he's got to look himself in the mirror, Thelma, not me. So I hope his constituents are happy with him. I don't think they are. Clearly, both sides are unhappy with him. And I think he's going to have a really tough time running re-election next year.
Now, I think that it's very good that the American process was in place because people years ago would not say anything, but now there was letters, there was protests, there was different things that people were letting him know that they were unhappy with him, and that's what you have to do with every elected official. You have to hold them accountable. You got to write letters. You got to let them know what you like, what you don't like, what you stand for. You know, regardless of what they do, there has to be some written document, not just screaming and shouting and hollering and hooping. There has to be something on paper showing you're for this particular decision or you're against this particular decision and why. And then if you have a solution, you know, I think that's important to include that as well.
Well, it's funny because in his press conference with Trump, he said, didn't mention me by name, but it was obvious who he was talking about. I said, well, Mike threatened to, quote unquote, destroy me, which, one, anyone who knows me knows my Judeo-Christian values knows that's not the case. But two, the goal of this, if you're in the business of trying to destroy someone's career, then you shouldn't be in this business because that's not the right thing to do. The whole point of this is just to get someone to see the light and to make the right vote. All Jeff had to do was to vote yes on impeachment and do the right thing. He chose not to. And again, instead of trying to face the music with his primary voters who elected him, he decided to go the other way.
Well, you know what? I think I could have respected the fact that he went with the impeachment or didn't go for the impeachment, although I may not have liked it. What I was more bothered by that he flipped.
Yeah.
It's one thing to stand by your convictions and vote the way you feel about a certain situation. When Senator Whelan was alive, God rest his soul, there were certain things that I didn't agree with, and I wrote him and told him about it or had a conversation. And he may say, Thelma, I appreciate what you said, but I'm still going to vote this way because this is my conviction or this is what I feel. But he didn't flip and become a Republican because I didn't agree, or people didn't agree with him. You don't do that. You don't do that. That's a lack of integrity.
Well, that is 1,000% the case with our congressman.
Right. There's no integrity with that.
No, it's just you just change. Look, again, it's all about the pin. He wanted to wear the pin to say he's a congressman.
But some people are happy that he switched.
Not nobody I talked to, at least in our party.
Well, not in our party. Yeah. I mean, I saw Harry Hurley. He wrote that he was happy.
Wow.
He put it on Facebook that he was happy that he made that decision. Of course, we wouldn't be happy because we're Democrats, But it's not so much. Again, for me, it wasn't so much that he had a strong opinion about something and refused to vote for it, although it would have been the right thing to do. It was more that, okay, I respect the fact that that's how you feel, even though I don't like it. But now you're going to flip?
Yeah, but I tell you what, Thelma, when you remember our convention a couple years ago.
I do.
He won it pretty handedly. Frankly, the reason why he won the convention pretty handedly is he told people, he says, look, I know I have sometimes a conservative voting record or a moderate voting record, but on the big issues, I'm going to be with you.
Yeah.
He said that.
He did say that.
And this was a big issue, and he wasn't with us. And my point to Jeff was, Jeff, if you're not going to be with us, you're not going to have my support, you're not going to win my convention. And the other thing to note about this is other counties are ready to ditch him. It wasn't just Mike Sullivan driving this thing. I know I had, frankly, Cumberland County right behind you ready to ditch this guy, and probably either Salem or Ocean. So this was a multi-county cross-generation thing of the Democratic Party, where it's not just the progressives, not just the moderates, it's everybody was in agreement this was the wrong vote and we can't support this guy. And he saw the writing on the wall. He did a poll. He saw that he was going to lose a primary, and he said, you know what, I'm just going to switch parties. Instead of explaining why he voted no.
Exactly. Which would have been the better thing to do.
Maybe you can get him on your show. I'd love to see him on your show.
I tried. His office.
He's in hiding. He's in hiding.
Well, because he's on somebody else's show this morning.
Oh, okay.
Locally for 3 hours. 4 hours today.
Well, I would love to be on the show with him. That would be great. You've done the best ratings ever, and him and I are together.
I'm going to reach out again, because I like to be fair.
Sure.
In my reporting, to hear and see if he will come on my show, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about why you done what you did. Whether he does or not, I'm going to reach out.
Please do.
But he is on a local radio show this morning, talking. So I do know he is going on radio show.
There you go.
I just need him on WEHA.
Not the right one. Exactly. Amen to that.
So we're going to be talking about now. Talking about that, his seat will be up in 2020, and there are candidates that are vying for his, according to the press.
Sure.
That I read. Ashley Bennett, Freeholder, is running. What's the lady from Longport?
Bridget Harrison.
Bridget Harrison, she's running. And then I saw Kennedy's wife.
Amy Kennedy.
Amy Kennedy, she's running. And was it anyone else?
There's a gentleman, councilman in West Cape May, who was looking at running. I don't know him, to be honest with you. I mean, look, this is a good thing that you got some good candidates coming forward. I personally think a woman should be the nominee. Not disrespecting any men, and not saying a man can't win the nomination. I do think we should run a woman. I think that's important. We never had a woman congressman, especially with this shenanigans going on with Jeff. I think it's the right message for our party to send, and just get behind a strong woman. So look, we'll see what happens. I think you'll have a lot of candidates come out and announce, and I think over the next month or two, I think the field will naturally whittle down, just because people are already picking sides on who to support. And at the end of the day, even if we have a contested primary, which isn't a bad thing, we're going to get behind a nominee in June, and we'll make sure that person has all the tools they need to win and beat Jeff. And candidly, Thelma, there's no guarantee that Jeff's going to be the Republican nominee. So we'll see.
That's true. I already heard they were running someone against him.
Well,
the guy has like $1 million already.
Well,
you need more than money, but I'm just saying.
Oh, sure, and he is, and this isn't a pejorative. And he is a carpetbagger. He didn't live in the district. He moved to the district just to run. So, and he can self-finance, which is another problem with our election finance laws. People can just throw a ton of money in. But look, you reap what you sow, Jeff. So if he's going to have a contested primary on his side, then God bless him.
All right. Well, but it won't really be decided. So it won't be decided until when our convention on who we're supporting. How does that work?
Well, we're going to have a convention. Our county's going to have a convention in March. Every county's different. This district, so people know, it's 8 counties. It's geographically a third of the state, so it's huge. It's a Herculean effort. So some counties do their convention process differently. Some counties, frankly, don't have a convention, and the county chair, him or her, has a right to just to support whomever and award the line. So even though I have that right in Atlantic County to award the line, for 44 years we've had a convention and allowed the delegates to decide. Next March will be our 45th annual convention, so it's older than me, so I'm really excited about that. So the convention process will let itself play out. I already see some elected officials taking sides. From even though all of my colleagues, my fellow county chairpersons have endorsed the candidate, I've held off for the time being. I think we've got 3 people in Atlantic County running. Out of respect for them, I think it behooves me, out of respect for them, to stay neutral at the moment. But we'll see what happens.
I think it's wise. I think it's too early to jump out, not knocking anyone who has, to support a candidate without seeing who's out there, what they all bring to the table, and then make a decision.
Well, and I think
that's my opinion.
Sure. And I think it's smart by these candidates to get out early. You know how it is. Sometimes in politics, you got to move quick. So to me, if you're not in, just generally, forget whether they live in Atlantic County or not, if you're not in this race by, let's say, the first week of January, then it ain't happening. I mean, now's the time. If you're going to announce, I think now's the time to do it. Not saying you've got to have it all locked up, but I think next couple weeks you've got to
put it out there that you're interested.
Well, either you're in or you're out. This is, I think to for example, for Bridget's credit, Bridget was, at least from what I frankly talking to her, she was prepared to run a primary against Jeff, and that's why she kind of had things in motion already. And then when Jeff decided to switch parties, she just put her name in just to run independent of Jeff. So people have been angling this for a while, and look, we'll see what happens.
All right, well, we're going to see what happens. This is great information. This is good information. If you have a question, call me at 609-641-8870 or send something to my Facebook page. We're getting ready for a commercial break. Keep it locked to WEHA. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is George C.
Hi, this is Super Steph.
This is Lisa Diane Hall.
Hey, it's me, Professor J.
This is Rose.
Hey, this is Bishop John Gandy.
Hi, this is Tawana Davis.
Hi, this is Thelma Witherspoon.
Hi, this is Tamaya J.
Hey, this is Sister Girl.
Hi, this is Tehran.
Hi, this is Evangelist Lanyel.
Hey, this is Chris.
Hi, this is Delrita Hawks.
Hi, I'm Christine Hawks Washington.
Hey, this is Lady Praise.
Hi, I'm El Presidente. Wishing you a very Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year from all of us here at Gospel 88.7 FM WEHA.
You are listening to Christ-centered, community-focused, listener-supported gospel. 88.7 and 100.3 FM, Atlantic City, WEHA. Don't forget to follow us on social media by searching We Have Gospel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Find out more at www.wehavegospel.com.
I'm Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. When I was 6, I had one thing on my mind. When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball every chance I could. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke. So I want you to learn the signs of a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. Because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. I'm Paul George. Protect the ones you love. Spot a stroke F-A-S-T. Fast. Life is why. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association.
Praise the Lord, everybody. This is Deacon William Hawks, also known as El Presidente, here at Gospel 88.7 FM and 100.3 FM Atlantic City, where we have gospel. And yes, we're still spreading the gospel one song at a time. We want to thank God for all of our listeners who continue to pray for us and support us. Oftentimes, I'm walking down the street and someone asks, Deacon Hawks, El Presidente, I want to help. I want to get involved. I want to do my part. And they say, how can I do that? And I say, you know something? You can log on to our website and participate in our 8 for 88.7. That's right, 8 for 88.7. That's where we ask you to get involved, and you can support us by just donating $8 a month. How do you do that? You just go to our website, www.wehavegospel.com, press the donate button, and just simply support us with $8 a month. It's that simple. Once again, just go to www.wehavegospel.com, click the donate button, and follow the instruction. There you go. It's as simple as that. And once again, we thank you from all of us here at Gospel 88.7 FM and 100.3 FM, where we have gospel and where we're spreading the gospel one song at a time. God bless you.
Juice, Mom. Juice, juice, juice.
Mommy, why are we going to the store?
Mom, I want juice.
Mom.
Juice, juice, juice.
Mommy.
Juice, juice,
Mom.
juice, juice.
Your child will have different needs at different stages of life, and that includes the car seat. That's right, the car seat. A car seat isn't one size fits all. You have to have the right seat based on your child's age, weight, and height. See, car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. But there's a website that gives you all the information you need, safercar.gov/the right seat. You'll find out about types of seats, when to have a seat rear-facing, when to switch it to forward-facing, when it's time for a booster seat, and when it's time for your child to ride in the back seat with a seatbelt. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat. That's safercar.gov/the right seat.
A message from the
The
National Highway
second
Traffic
best
Safety
thing about
Administration
driving
and the Ad Council.
home is listening to WEHA. The best thing is getting there. And that's why I'm glad when I finally get home, I can listen to WEHA on my computer. It's easy. All you have to do is go to wehavegospel.com. Not only can I hear the station, I can also see what's playing at the time, as well as what is already played before. You know, sometimes I'll hear a song on the radio and I want to know the name of the song and where I can get it from, you know. And when I need to go to another website, I can always use the pop-out play player to keep WEHA playing in the background while I browse the web. They make it so easy for me at WeHaveGospel.com. You got to check it out.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. John Regis, and I am president of Reliance Medical Group. Reliance Medical Group has been in this community for over 35 years, providing quality health care to residents of Atlantic County and the state of New Jersey. Reliance Medical Group is one of the largest minority-owned businesses in the state and definitely the largest in South Jersey. We have over 23 office locations in 5 South Jersey counties, over 150 employees, and over 40 doctors and nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and midwives. So join us every Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. for Medical Mondays, right here on Gospel 88.7 FM, WEHA Radio.
If you just tune in, you're listening to In the Community with Dr. Thelma Witherspoon right here on your favorite gospel radio station, WEHA Gospel 88.7, 100.3 FM. We have gospel. This broadcast has been brought to you by the Hawks Family Businesses, who have been serving our community for over 30 years, and also Beacon Hall, turning moments into memories, and God's Gift, and the CEO is Grace Crump Holly. Thank you so much for sponsoring In the Community. I really appreciate you sponsoring my show. And we're in conversation with the Atlantic County Democratic Chair, Michael Silliman, and we're going to continue in our conversation. There's a lot going on political-wise, and I want to make sure. I thought he was the best person to come in here and update us on what we needed to know, versed in our community, locally, statewide, and nationally. We're making a lot of headlines, on the news and whatnot. So we want to make sure that we're fully aware of what our rights are and what we can do and what we cannot do. All right, so we're going to continue on in our conversation. 2020 is coming up. It is a huge election. And before I say that, I did see on the news this morning that the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, she sent the president a letter to do the State of the Union address.
Yep.
So that's going to happen in January, I believe on the 20th.
February, actually.
February. That's going to happen in February. It's the proper process. Although he was impeached, he's still the president.
Sure.
All right, he's still the president. I don't see him going anywhere no time soon. I'm talking about as far as the impeachment process is. We're going to move on. There are a lot of people running. I think it's too many people running. That's just my opinion.
Well, I think the field's going to whittle down. I mean, we've got the Iowa caucuses early February, then soon after that you got New Hampshire. So the field's going to whittle down substantively. I think that the fortunate and unfortunate thing for us in New Jersey is our primary is in June. By the time we're going to have our primary, either the race is going to be over or you're only going to have 2 or 3 candidates. So we're not really going to... We used to have our primary elections on Super Tuesday in March. For cost-saving reasons, we moved that to June when our normal primary is. But, is New Jersey going to probably have a huge influence in the primary? Unfortunately, probably not. I hate to say it.
Now, with that being said, I watched the last debate, and a lot of the candidates did not make it they didn't qualify.
Sure.
So what does that mean when they say they didn't qualify?
Well, it's tough to gain traction. Look, I'm, a lot of us, myself included, we're backing Cory Booker. He's been a friend, literally and figuratively, to our party. He's been a friend to me. He's our United States Senator. And unfortunately, he was not able to make the debate. It's just tough because you look at like a Steyer or a Bloomberg, they can put a ton of money in, artificially inflate their poll numbers, and then they get into a debate. Unfortunately, it's just been tough with some of these other candidates sucking the oxygen out of the room for a guy like Cory to break through. But I think Cory's going to surprise people in Iowa, and I think that's going to kick it off. And look, polls are fleeting. Polls, and I believe very much in polling, and I do a lot of it. Polls are just a snapshot in time. It's a Polaroid. That's it. So just because you have one poll this time doesn't mean a month from now it's going to be the same. We still got a month until Iowa, a month and like a week until New Hampshire. So let's see what happens. Let's see if we get Cory to break out.
I think most people will make their decisions based on what happens between Iowa and New Hampshire.
Sure. Look, you're going to have people drop out right after Iowa and drop out New Hampshire. The crazy thing about this is having the first 2 states as Iowa and New Hampshire, is that representative of our party, where you've got 2 states where there's very few people of color that are, should those two be the first two states? I don't know if they should, to be honest with you. Maybe it makes sense for a Nevada or a South Carolina to be the first two states, which are much more diverse. And perhaps we should look at a regional primary system rather than a state system because, again, it's, why should Iowa and New Hampshire, which have probably 5%, if that, African-American and Hispanic communities, have such influence on our primary election? To me, it's not it needs to be examined.
It may not be diverse as far as ethnicity, but it is diverse as far as working people, everyday people, that are out there with American values. So Stephanina's out there. I'm really proud of her.
Absolutely.
She's out in Iowa. I don't know of anyone who's been out in the Iowa caucuses. I know about them, but I didn't know anybody personally. And so she's out there working. So I think it's going to be determined once the Iowa caucuses come. Now, how many people are still in the race? Is it 20?
No. It's, I don't know. It's Biden, Bernie, Warren, Buttigieg, Bloomberg, Steyer, Booker, Klobuchar. That's 8. Yang, that's 9. And there's some others who haven't made debates. I think Tulsi Gabbard. That's another one. Tulsi Gabbard votes present on impeachment. Not yes or no, she was present, which so real profiles encourage Tulsi. So there's probably 10 or 11, 12, somewhere in there.
Well, then some have dropped out.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, some have. I know Kamala Harris. Yeah, I knew she had dropped out, and others have dropped out too. But to me, a house divided against itself can't stand. So hopefully everyone will come together and make a decision and get behind one candidate and vote for them.
Oh, listen, we can't, whether it's our congressional thing we got going on now or president, we can't have a bloody primary. We can have a spirited, competitive primary,
right,
but a bloody primary is not, like 2016 was really bad. You had a really, the Clinton versus Sanders wings really just clash, and even afterwards, there was a lot of, they were called to me the Bernie bros who said, we'll never support Hillary, blah, 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 and it just became a divisive thing, and I think it hurt us in the general because Democrats weren't united against the nominee. I've made it very clear. Whoever the presidential nominee is, we've got to support him. Period. End of story. I don't care if they're too moderate for you or too liberal for you or whatever. If they're the nominee, he or she, we got to support him.
Right.
Done.
And if you don't support him, then you're going to get what we got in 2016.
Absolutely. And the other thing, too, Thelma, it's a shame we have this dumb electoral college because our votes here in New Jersey don't matter. Let's be honest with you.
Well, but this is something that has been in process for many years. And I think people talk about the electoral college, but you have to be savvy, all right? Because you have to win the electoral college as far as the presidential.
Sure. I'm saying we have to abolish it.
I don't think so. I think that you have to... I'm not going to say work the room, but you have to, since this is the process that is in place, then you have to make sure that you're reaching those people who would be making the decision on the presidential election.
Well, but then that only leads to about 12 states that really are going to decide the presidency. My feeling is if you have a national popular vote where the person with the most votes wins, period, then every vote matters. And then, frankly, presidential campaigns have to be everywhere, all 50 states, because you're going to try to get the turnout up everywhere. It's not just a focus on Missouri, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. It's like
California.
Yeah. Well, California, you could get 4 trillion votes in California. It won't matter. It's still going blue, and all you're getting is 55 electoral votes. Same thing with Texas if you're a Republican. So if you've got a national popular vote, then every vote matters, and because it's tough for us, Thelma. Like you've been involved. When in 2016, it was tough because people said, why don't I go across the river to Pennsylvania and make phone calls because that's a swing state? And it's like, well, no, we got good candidates down here. I need you to stay in this side of the river, So it makes it difficult. The nice thing would be if we had a national popular.
Well, now it makes it difficult for the presidential, but when you're dealing with the congressional and other seats, Senate seats, local candidates, it is important, and every vote does count.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But New Jersey, as a presidential state, New Jersey's going blue no matter what happens.
Right.
You got almost 1 million people in Hudson County. The state's going blue. Whether it is. And look, Hillary Clinton did well in Atlantic County. Barack Obama did well in Atlantic County. Look, there are pockets. Well, not pockets. This this area, parts of the 2nd Congressional District, are Trump supporters. No doubt about it. At least our Congressional District is purple. I'm not going to lie to you. You know? Trump's, I guess, going to do some rally with Jeff next month, and I'm sure they're going to have a great crowd. Unfortunately, because there's a lot of folks that buy what this guy is selling, Trump.
President Trump.
Well,
President Trump. President, regardless whether I like you or not, I do respect the position.
Oh, you have to. You
got to respect the position.
The unfortunate thing is Trump himself is not respected because he has world leaders mocking him. Did you ever imagine world leaders mocking the President of the United States?
No.
That's where we are as a country.
It is quite embarrassing.
Absolutely.
But he's still the president, regardless of what I feel. And then you have a lot of people who do support him. I think it's important for us to, for people to make sure whatever candidate that they want, they have to show why this candidate is a person that should be president or congressional Congress or should be on council or mayor or freeholder or whatever. That's what's important.
Yeah, you have to be for something. Cory Booker has a great quote. Beating Trump is the floor, not the ceiling. That's just the beginning of beating Trump. Then we actually have to do stuff. And
now there's a difference, and I understand loyalty. Don't get me wrong. I like Cory Booker. But it doesn't look good for him right now.
It's tough. Not gonna lie to you.
It doesn't look very well. So I can't say where the party would be going from Atlantic County. Who would they get behind in the event that Senator Booker doesn't make it?
No, I really don't know. We'll have a convention. I really don't know. That's a good question. But the other thing is, again, so just so people know, we've had probably the longest running continuous nominating convention in the state of New Jersey history. It's 45 years old. And what we do is we have a secret ballot. We extend voting rights to not just county committee members, but also elected officials and municipal chairs. We really make it small d democratic. And we have a fair and open process. We have for 45 years, and we're going to continue to do so. So we're going to have our convention in March. We'll see how that convention goes. The one thing I'll tell you is, again, it's by March, some of these people are going to be out of the race. And then by June, really a lot of people are going to be out of the race. So
then that would be the question, then who would the party back?
I mean, look, I would suspect if it's pretty locked up for one candidate, I guess the party would get behind him or her, but I don't know. Again, because New Jersey went from a Super Tuesday primary to a June primary, it was the right thing to do because it saved us probably $10 million statewide, but it really lessened our impact on a presidential primary, to be honest with you. Right. And maybe we look at going back to it. I don't know.
I think that would be something good to explore. Who makes that decision?
It would be state legislation. We'd have to move our primary election for the president back to March.
Back to March, which I don't see that happening no time soon.
Well, if we could do something, I'm a big believer. If we did something instead of you save money, instead of doing all polling place, if you just did an all mail-in ballot system, where let's say every primary voter was mailed a ballot and they send it back, then you could still have a March primary, but it would save a lot of money.
Yeah, but everybody doesn't mail. They don't understand the mail-in ballot, and I don't understand. Now, maybe you can speak to this. Why did ballots come from Trenton or someplace? I should say. I shouldn't say Trenton. People were very confused with the ballots that came from outside of the county. Mm-hmm. And so are they legit? I'm not saying they're not legit, but it was very confusing.
Well, I think what you're referencing to is there is a piece of legislation signed to expand voting privileges and vote by mail, and it said if you voted by mail in 2016 or 2017, you'd automatically be signed up in mail-in ballots for subsequent elections unless you opt out. We saw a huge increase in participation, especially in off-year election, which was a good thing. I think it's the way to go. I think this idea of having election day on one day, on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November for 14 hours is antiquated. It's not the way our society operates anymore. And quite frankly, I'm a big believer of universal mail-in balloting. You look at Colorado and Washington State, they do all their ballots by mail-in ballots, and they've consistently seen an uptick in turnout. And other counties throughout the country have explored this idea, and it's really it's also a safety matter too, and a cost-cutting measure. year. You don't have to pay all these poll workers. You don't have to pay all these election staff. And there has been an issue lately of safety at polling places, and I know there's a trend of moving away from schools and churches as polling places because if you're a school, you've got all these strangers, quite frankly, walking into a school to vote. Unfortunately, God forbid, you don't know what's going to happen. So I really think we should look at exploding and I will make very clear, I know there's been some negative headlines over the years about vote by mail, let's be honest with you. However, it's a safe, convenient, easy way to do it. Camden County, 40% of their ballots cast are mail-in ballots. I've been doing mail-in ballots the past 6 or 7 years, and it works great.
But you know what? It doesn't help. I don't have a problem with mail-in ballots. I think that any way that you are can vote, you can vote, but people do have to be cautioned, or I should say aware, that it's a possibility if something is not done right in the process that your mail-in ballot will not be counted. Going to the polls, your vote is counted. I know firsthand because I've seen many mail-in ballots thrown out for different reasons. Coffee stain, the signature didn't look right, so you're mailing in your ballot, but it may not be counted. So that's the issue I have. I don't have a problem with mail-in ballots. I have a problem with the process, I should say. That's my issue. That's just my personal issue.
Well, perhaps state government should do a better job of educating the public. And look, it is all about educating the voter. We just, the governor and the legislature just signed a bill a couple of days ago to allow folks on parole and on probation to vote and restore their voting rights. And I think that's the right thing to do. And part of it is all of us have to educate these folks to say, hey, your voting rights have been restored. You need to re-register to vote and make sure those folks get their rights back. So you're right. It's all about voter education.
Now, we only have a few minutes, and I don't know whether you can speak to this. There's a lot of rumors that outside interests control control the Atlantic County Democrats. Is there any validity to that?
Listen, I was elected in 2016. I was reelected unanimously in 2018. Nobody tells me how to operate this party. I'm blessed that I have the confidence of our members to lead us, and most likely I'm going to get reelected again next year and do a good job. But look, you've always got these conspiracy theorists and all that, and we're a very horizontal organization. I talk to my municipal chairs very often. I am extremely accessible, and it's really about empowering local clubs. I and our county party is only as strong as our local clubs, so it's important that they're strong, and no one's telling us what to do. Not to say that I know.
Not that you don't.
Listen, I
have
know
conversations with people.
Listen, I'm blessed that I spent a lot of years building my reputation up, and I have a very good reputation throughout the state. And if you go up to Warren County, ask the chair up there about Mike Sullivan, he's going to say good things about me. I'm not bragging. It's just that's the goodwill I've brought to the party, and part of it is. We got to ask for favors, and there may be a time where if I need something from the governor, if I need something from the Senate president, if I need something from John Curry, I've got the relationships where I can call him and text him and say, hey guys, I need some help. And frankly, one of the reasons why I'm so enthusiastic about Cory Booker is every time me or my predecessor asked Cory Booker for a favor, he did it for us.
Right, he's a great guy.
He's a tremendous human being, and I'm happy to support him. And it does stink that he's not catching traction.
But the truth of the matter is, and you're a person that cuts right through the thing.
Yeah.
If you see something and it doesn't look like it, you'll come out and say, it's tough.
Yeah.
I don't think you can win.
Well,
and you didn't say that with him.
Well,
you didn't say that.
No, but his numbers and his numbers in Iowa aren't bad.
They're not great, but they're not bad.
Look, I'll be honest with you, Thelma. Am I at the point now to say he can't win? No. Are we getting there? Unfortunately, maybe so, but I'm not at the point yet with that.
You're not there yet. We won't be there until after that's fair. The hour.
Well, look.
That's fair.
You want brutal honesty? If Cory Booker doesn't have a good showing in Iowa, then it's probably over.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the Mike Suleiman I know. That's the Mike Suleiman I know.
You know what's crazy? I know we have a few minutes. You know what's crazy, Thelma? It's just, see, my job as the county chairman, I unfortunately have the one to say no. And, somebody wants something, I got to say no. I have to be honest with you. You can't not be honest with people about their chances. But, because you have everybody else, oh, yeah, do it. Then they get to me. It's like, well, no. Like, here's the reality.
All right, well, listen, we got a few minutes. I enjoyed this conversation today, and
thank you. Appreciate it.
What would you like to leave with my listening audience?
Listen, Democrats are good at two things sometimes. One, it's fighting amongst themselves and fighting publicly. And we are passionate people. What I convey to you is, at the end of the day, we got to come together and win and move this country forward. You may like candidate X and it ends up being candidate Y. You got to get behind candidate Y. Don't hold grudges. Don't fight publicly. We're all volunteering our time for the process. Respect everybody. And again, we are a team. The Democratic Party is a team. We're a rambunctious team. We fight, but we're a team. And we got to keep it together because we got to move our country and our county forward.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed this conversation today, bringing everybody up to speed on the process, on what's going on in the county and nationwide, statewide, everything that's going on. And it's a part, that's what I love about America. Democracy.
Amen to that.
Yeah, that's what I love about America. In other countries, you don't have a say-so. And if you go against the leadership, boom, you may be out of here.
No, we're the best country in the world, and we got to save it.
Yeah, we have problems, but we're still the best country.
Amen to that.
In the whole wide world. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to In the Community with Dr. Thelma Witherspoon. Listen, don't forget to go out and vote for WEHA for the Stella Awards. Don't forget to vote for Fred Jerkins III, Billboard's #1, Stella, 5 and 10. And we want to bring those Stellas home back to South Jersey or next year. All right. So did you enjoy our program today? I know you did. Thanks for tuning in to In the Community with Dr. Thelma Witherspoon right here on your favorite gospel radio station, WEHA Gospel 88.7, 100.3 FM. We have gospel. See ya on next week.